Yeah. Are you also covering sports at the moment?
Yeah, Chelsea and Tottenham.
Chelsea and Tottenham, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
All
yeah.
right. All right. Okay. Let me start with the question one. I mean, I told you before that you are quite famous among South Korean football fans, especially as a Chelsea expert.
That's because of you. I probably owe you money. You're my agent in Korea.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Anyway, but at the same time, you are covering sports as well, and obviously, I mean, can you introduce yourself to the all people who is watching this video?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Hi, I'm Matt Law from the Daily Telegraph newspaper in England. I mainly cover Chelsea and Tottenham for the paper. I write about England too, and more general football. But yeah, usually you can find me either at Stamford Bridge or at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Yes, and right, and when we look back, you were the first journalist to broke the story of Frank Lampard sacking, and then also in the past in 2016, you were the first who reported that some Bundesliga clubs are chasing Son. Yeah, at that time. I mean, you are very fast.
Huh? You have a better memory than me. You remember? I don't even remember that.
Because yeah, I remember that because yeah, I'm good at memories. Anyway, many fans are curious that how can you get those information? I mean, in many cases, you are the first. What's the secret for that?
Honestly, there is no secret. It's just a case of Sung Mo, over time when you cover football like you did in England with the Premier League, you build up contacts, you build up relationships, and you become dependent on them. You become dependent on people sharing information with you. It's a funny story, the Lampard one. It was a Monday morning a couple of weeks ago, and I knew that Lampard was in trouble. Everybody knew that he was getting close to the sack, but they'd beaten Luton on the Sunday in the FA Cup.
Yeah.
So I went to bed on Sunday night, not really expecting anything the next day because they'd just won the game. It's quite unusual for teams to sack a manager after they've just won. Sure. So I got up the next morning and thought, okay, I can have a quiet morning. So I went to the shops to get some groceries. We're in lockdown here, but the supermarkets, the grocery stores are still open. Okay. So I went quite early out to the supermarket, and it was while I had my groceries in my hand going back to my car that my phone went, and someone said, you need to check this out because I hear that Frank Lampard is getting sacked right now. So I was lucky. I got back in my car and I made a call to somebody who I was worried would not be able to pick up their phone, but they picked up immediately. And I managed to confirm the news. And funnily enough, I put out that Lampard was being sacked. It was while he was actually in the meeting with Marina Granovskaya and Bruce Buck at Chelsea being sacked that I put out the news, and the players didn't know at the time. And I found out afterwards that a lot of the players, the first they knew of him being sacked was reading our article.
Right. And can you also share the story of the Son and Bundesliga? I mean, the story. How did you get that?
So Son, I remember Son had a difficult first year in Tottenham, hadn't he?
Yeah, sure.
And I remember that I was chasing around on what their plans were for the summer, and who they might be signing and who they might be selling. And I spoke to a very good contact who's very high up at Tottenham, who said, look, yes, we think he will be good, but he's not so happy at the moment. He's talked to us about maybe whether he needs to leave the club and go back to Germany. From there, I made some calls and found out there was interest from Germany. Tottenham, I think, did speak to some clubs from Germany who were interested in signing him, but no one was at that time was prepared to pay the same money that Tottenham had paid for Son. I'm trying to think back off the top of my head. I think Tottenham paid about 20 million from Son to get him from Leverkusen. And after a difficult first year, I think he'd only scored about 4 goals. The German clubs who were interested were trying to sign him for maybe 10, 15 million. Tottenham were not interested in doing that. And luckily for Tottenham, it never happened, because look what happened since. Son became one of their best players. And definitely, Son is not only one of their best players, Son is their best signing of the last probably since Gareth Bale, he is their best signing, or maybe Christian Eriksen. He's right up there because obviously a lot of Tottenham's best players came through the ranks like Harry Kane, or came from smaller clubs like Dele Alli did. But in terms of going out and spending money, Son is their best signing for a long, long time.
Right. Yeah. Good for Spurs. Anyway, right? And yeah. Let's talk about Chelsea first. I mean, obviously about Lampard's sacking. I mean, he had a very nice first season.
Mm-hmm.
It seems very well. I mean, everything goes right in his first season. So what went wrong for him after that first season?
Well, the surprising thing that I found out after he was sacked was that Chelsea didn't agree that the first season went very well. He was told at the end of his first season that fourth was not good enough, which is a surprise with their transfer ban, and after selling Eden Hazard, I thought fourth and reaching the FA Cup final was a very good season. But Chelsea have very high standards. They always want to win. It's covering Tottenham and Chelsea. It's funny because Tottenham will always see top four as a big success, be very happy with top four. Chelsea's different. Top four is the minimum, and they'll never just be happy with top four. They have to be winning trophies. So Lampard was told at the end of his first season, look, we think you've done a decent job, a good job, but fourth is not good enough. We have to be better than fourth. And then, of course, they go out and they spend £220 million on all the new signings. And that changed Lampard's job completely. All of a sudden, he had to win. He had to win, and he had to be, if he wasn't top, he had to be second. And it made it very difficult. I mean, Son is a great example for Chelsea because Son came over from Germany, difficult first year.
Yeah.
Chelsea have got two players over from Germany for big money, Havertz and Werner, and they're having very difficult first years. Werner has not scored for 14 Premier League games. Havertz contracted COVID a few months ago and has struggled ever since. He's not looked fit. He's struggled with the pace of the game. But Chelsea are not as patient as Tottenham, and they want these players to come in and be perfect straight away. And Lampard always said he thought that would be impossible. And that's really what ended up costing him his job, unfortunately. I thought it was very, very harsh. But when Chelsea are 8th or 9th in the league, Roman Abramovich will never accept that.
Right. I mean, yeah, sure. And you seem to be very disappointed for the decision. I mean, following your Twitter, it was obvious. Then, I mean, you just said, but I mean, do you believe they should give him more time? And if he was given more time, he could be reading Chelsea in the right way?
Yeah, look, I think he deserved more time because I thought he did a fantastic job last season. Mm-hmm. He brought through all these young players who are now worth a lot of money for the club, and has created a pathway from the academy which has never been there before. I think they were playing some very good football last season. This season has been more difficult, but I think there had to be more time when you're bringing in 7 new players, most of whom are from leagues abroad, most of whom never played for clubs like Chelsea where you have to win every week to that pressure. I think you have to give the guy time. And I also think that Lampard had shown enough to suggest that in time he would bring out the best of these players, and that he is a good coach and a good manager. I mean, again, relating it to Tottenham, Pochettino in his first year, I remember Tottenham were 14th at one point with Pochettino in his first year. I think they sacked him and didn't get better and better, and the squad got better and better. And I saw a similar thing with Lampard. I thought over time it would be like Pochettino at Tottenham, that they would continue to progress and continue to get better. But Chelsea are different from other clubs. They don't give people that time. They want success now. And the thing is you have to say for Chelsea is it has worked for them. They've won so many trophies, and when they make changes, it usually does improve the results immediately, like it is doing now. So it's difficult to criticise for them. But I thought Chelsea, when they appointed Lampard and last season, they were moving in a new direction. I thought they were going to be more like Liverpool with Klopp, more Tottenham with Pochettino, Guardiola. I thought they were going to really invest in the coach. Chelsea are Chelsea.
Yes, and just one more thing about Lampard sacking. Sacking. There are a lot of talks always. Like always, there are talks about there are players conflict each other. The players are not getting along well with the manager or themselves. And do you believe there was a real story under Lampard?
Yeah, there were problems. Look, you know as well as I do, Sungmo, from being in England and covering the football as closely as you'd have, that there are always disagreements in football clubs. It's like any workplace. Not everybody's going to be best friends and get on all the time. And particularly when you have a situation where you have a lot of, at Chelsea, every time they pick a team of 11 players, there are 9 senior international players who can't play. So they're never going to be particularly happy. And when results go badly, the problems get bigger and the people who are annoyed become more vocal. And there were definitely problems. There are definitely problems with Lampard and some players. That was obvious. Marcus Alonso didn't play since September after playing badly against West Bromwich Albion, not even on the substitutes bench. It was clear that Lampard didn't want Kepa, who obviously they ended up replacing with Mendy. There'd been problems with Rudiger and Lampard. That got sorted out a little bit because Rudiger came back. So there were problems there. And there were definitely problems within the squad. There were definitely clashes of personality. Some people were happy that some players would speak out. Some people were not happy other players would speak out. It's the same in every club, but when you get on a bad run of results, it becomes worse. It wasn't like the old Chelsea where player power was killing the manager. Funnily enough, that used to happen in Lampard's day as a player, where the really powerful players could kill the manager and almost get the manager sacked. That didn't happen. There weren't players talking to Abramovich or talking to Marina Granovskaya to get him sacked. That wasn't happening. It was more normal problems of players having disagreements between themselves or being annoyed at Lampard for not playing or for what they felt was the wrong treatment.
Right. So it's different case, right?
It's different from the old days where the big players would go and talk to Abramovich. When Villas-Boas went, I think maybe there were some players who helped to get him sacked. That is different from then, yeah.
Yeah, right. That's clear. And let's talk about the Chelsea at the moment, that they have new manager now, and they have some games. Do you believe the new manager, Tuchel, can run Chelsea in long term? That's the issue for Chelsea managers, to run the team in long term.
Look, I've given up thinking about long term with Chelsea. Right. I don't think you can talk about the long term with Chelsea. I think until they prove us wrong and they do something for the long term, then I think it's pointless. And Tuchel has said it himself. Tuchel gave a very good interview when he joined, and he said he was a little bit surprised to start with that they only gave him an 18-month contract. And he thought in his head, should I accept this 18-month contract, because it seems a bit short. But he said, look, I know the score at Chelsea, and it doesn't matter if I sign a 4-year contract. They'll probably sack me in 18 months anyway. If Tuchel doesn't either win the league or finish second next season, then he will probably be sacked at the end of his contract or near the end of his contract. So I don't see him being a long-term manager. He might. A long-term manager for Chelsea is 2 years. So he could survive 2 years if he does very well next season, if he gets in the Champions League this season. But 4 or 5 years, I can't imagine it at Chelsea. And like I say, until they prove me wrong and do it, I think it's impossible to predict that anyone will ever get that amount of time at Chelsea.
All right, let's forget about long term for Chelsea, as you suggested. Just do you believe it's promising? The new manager's team looks promising.
Yeah. Look. I was obviously of the opinion that Lampard shouldn't have been sacked. I also think that Tuchel has come in and done a very good job to start with. He's made some very interesting changes. Callum Hudson-Odoi was moved to right wing back. He's gone back to a back three. He's changed it up front a little bit with having 2 10s behind a striker rather than a normal front three. And so far it's worked. They've only We are talking today before the Barnsley game, so they might concede a goal tonight. But so far in his first 4 games, they only conceded 1 goal, which was an own goal from Rudiger. They've looked a lot better at the back. They've looked a lot more confident in possession. And he's an interesting coach. He changes a lot. He changes the lineup a lot. He changes his tactics a lot. Whereas lots of coaches obviously stick with the same formation and things. He likes to change a lot. So I think he's going to be very interesting. And I'm impressed with him so far. He seems a good guy. He talks well. And he's made a good start.
All right. Let's talk about one more manager who was a Chelsea manager and who is a Tottenham manager at the moment. I mean, you are the best person to talk about him in that sense because you are covering both teams. And my first question is, you would hear many times from the fans that Mourinho is too old. I mean, not his age. His style is too old. Many fans are saying, and he's never changing his way, something like that. Do you agree with that? Do you believe Mourinho at the moment has evolved from his time in Chelsea?
That's a really good question. I think